Welcome to iFire Story. This is your go-to spot for gripping tales of love, betrayal, and heartbreak. From true infidelity stories to cheating wife chronicles and Reddit's wildest family dramas, we dive deep into the raw emotions and twists that keep you hooked. Whether it's a lost love saga or a shocking cheating audio story, we've got it all. So, hit that subscribe button, grab some popcorn, and let's spark some stories that'll set your heart ablaze. It began with a seemingly insignificant event, one that I could scarcely fathom would unravel everything. As I folded laundry in the living room, Jacob's voice echoed from the hallway, calling out to me. "Melissa, would you be able to assist me with this?" I glanced over to find him by the stairs, wrestling with his belt. His khaki shorts draped casually around his hips, while the leather strap of his belt twisted in a clumsy manner. "Could you please make some adjustments to this?" He approached me, inquiring if it was stuck or something. "Of course," I replied, placing the towels down gently. I edged nearer, attempting to free the strap from the clasp. "Are you still feeling trapped?" I inquired, focusing intently. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, allowing me to share even more captivating true stories like this one with you. Be sure to watch this video all the way through and give it a thumbs up, as the story unfolding is bound to captivate you. Kindly tap the like button to express your support. "Apologies," he said, pausing as I continued my task. At last, when I succeeded in releasing the buckle, his shorts tumbled down to his ankles. Time appeared to stand still. I found myself glancing down, catching a glimpse of more than I intended before swiftly averting my gaze. Jacob remained motionless, his hands suspended in an uncomfortable position, his cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Apologies," he murmured, quickly adjusting his shorts. I took a step back, feeling a flush of embarrassment wash over me. "It's all right. These things occur." "Indeed, I appreciate your assistance," he faltered. He hurried up the stairs, abandoning me in solitude, my heart racing. It was an unintentional mishap, a fleetingly uncomfortable instance, yet an undeniable change occurred between us following that. The atmosphere was electric, and an undeniable sense of transformation lingered in the air. Though we never uttered a word about it, that day marked a turning point in our relationship, forever altering its course. My marriage to David was far from a fairy tale. It wasn't unpleasant either, just a serene, cozy pattern that had gradually faded in its vibrancy. We tied the knot when I was 42, and he was 49, each of us having emerged from unsuccessful first marriages. David adhered to his routines, engaging in regular golf games, fishing excursions, and work dinners that filled his schedule. I had come to accept the quiet that lingered between us, occupying my time with tending to the garden, engaging in charitable endeavors, and maintaining a neat home. Then Jacob arrived. David's son from his first marriage had consistently exhibited a courteous demeanor, yet remained somewhat aloof. I had only encountered him sporadically in the initial years of my marriage, during mandatory holiday gatherings, while he was still pursuing his studies in college. He had always been reserved, clumsy in that familiar manner young men often exhibit around new stepmothers. However, 6 years later, the individual who appeared at our doorstep was no longer the same quiet teenager I recalled. Jacob had recently completed his studies and was navigating the challenges of his new reality. David, who held a rather indifferent view of his fine arts degree, found that it hadn't brought him the success he had hoped for. In a gesture of kindness, he extended an invitation for him to stay, while he navigated his next steps. I had little influence, yet I was perfectly fine with it. The house was spacious, and I appreciated having some company to fill the long hours while David was busy with work or out socializing with friends. I was taken aback by how Jacob's presence would alter the dynamics within the house. Jacob possessed an undeniable allure, a quality that drew others to him effortlessly. His dry wit and captivating grin brought life to the vacant corners of the house in a manner that David never could. It began with fleeting instances. One morning, as I was trimming the hedges, Jacob strolled in with a cup of coffee, his feet bare and his eyes still heavy with sleep. He reclined by the door, observing my efforts with a relaxed smile. "I noted that you were up early." He nonchalantly shrugged and took a sip of his coffee. Rest eluded me. Moreover, there must be someone who appreciates all the effort you're dedicating in this space. I chuckled and gave a slight shake of my head. It would be wise to keep that from David's ears. He believes this garden simply manages on its own. Jacob replied with a casual tone, yet there was a subtle sharpness in his words. David doesn't notice much. The remark took me by surprise, yet I chose not to pursue it further. In the weeks that followed, our discussions deepened, and our exchanges felt increasingly effortless. Jacob lingered in the kitchen as I prepared meals, sharing tales from his college years and seeking my thoughts on job applications. One afternoon, I discovered him lounging on the couch in the living room, immersed in his notebook, sketching away. "Would it be all right if I had a glance?" I inquired, gesturing towards the pad. He paused momentarily before relinquishing it. The pages brimmed with detailed pencil sketches, capturing portraits, landscapes, and abstract designs that appeared to pulse with life. "These are truly remarkable," I remarked, filled with genuine admiration. "Thank you," he murmured softly. "I engage in it merely to fill the hours. I recommended that you share these with someone. An exhibition space, a creative leader. Your skills are truly impressive, Jacob." He offered a subtle smile, locking his gaze with mine. "You're the very first to express that." The gravity of his words lingered in the air, and for the first time, I sensed a flicker within me, an elusive notion that remained just beyond my grasp. Then the belt incident occurred, and everything started to fall apart. For days, the atmosphere surrounding us was heavy, with an unspoken tension that neither of us could find the words to confront. I made an effort to steer clear of solitude with him, yet the house felt overwhelmingly quiet and confined for such a thing. We kept crossing paths. One evening, as I was washing dishes, Jacob entered the kitchen, his hair still glistening from a recent shower. "Melissa," he murmured gently. I spun around, my heart pounding at the call of my name. "Indeed?" I inquired, with a hint of uncertainty. "I apologize for what happened the other day." "That was awkward," he remarked, his hands buried deep in the pockets of his jeans. "It's fine," I replied hastily, redirecting my attention to the sink. "Let's simply move on from this." "I don't think I can," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I stood still. His words weighed down on me, and I could feel a tightness in my chest. I pivoted to confront him, grappling with feelings that eluded my understanding. "Jacob, that's not possible." I started, but I was unable to complete it. He moved nearer, his eyes fixed and resolute. "I understand, but I hope you realize it held significance for me." The power in his voice rendered me utterly speechless, and for a fleeting moment We both remained still. Suddenly, David's voice echoed from the front door, shattering the stillness of the moment. I responded swiftly, glancing back at Jacob before moving away. Yet, as I turned to leave, a sense of transformation lingered in the air. The days that followed were marked by evasion and fleeting looks exchanged in silence. David stayed unaware, engrossed in television or socializing with friends, while Jacob and I were left to maneuver through the complicated situation we had formed. One afternoon, while I was folding laundry, Jacob suddenly appeared in the doorway. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice laced with uncertainty. I paused briefly before giving a nod. "Please shut the door behind you." He entered the room, closing the door softly behind him. "I'm at a loss for how to behave in your presence now," he admitted, his voice trembling with emotion. "Jacob, we must release this," I urged, my voice quivering. "It was merely a fleeting instant." "Yet it was more than a fleeting instant," he remarked, moving nearer. "This isn't suitable for my taste." I realized then it wasn't merely a fleeting instance for me as well. Under the stars, Jacob pressed his lips against mine. It unfolded unexpectedly, yet it occurred. As I stepped away, I said to him, "This cannot occur again." He nodded, yet the skepticism in his eyes was unmistakable, and I shared the same doubt. The days after the kiss unfolded in a flurry of secret encounters and hushed longing. Jacob and I attempted to maintain a facade of normalcy, yet the palpable tension between us was impossible to ignore. Each look, each unintentional brush of skin was electric, laden with the unspoken words between us. David was unaware, his focus scattered among his job, his companions, and his myriad of interests. Yet despite his distractions, an unsettling sense lingered within me that we were treading dangerously close to the flames. The second occurrence took place in the garden. The morning had slipped away as I nurtured the roses, the sun's warmth enveloping me, when I felt Jacob's presence behind me. "You're always out here," he remarked, his voice slicing through the silence. "It's serene," I responded, without looking back. He advanced, enveloping me in his shadow. "It seems to me that you prefer to keep your distance." I felt a hitch in my breath, yet I compelled myself to maintain my composure. "I'm not quite sure I understand your point." "Do you not?" he inquired gently, yet with a firm resolve. I faced him directly, and this time there was an unwavering resolve, no pause to hold me back. He pressed his lips against mine once more, and this time I responded in kind. What started as brief instances of desire evolved into a force that neither of us could manage. Initially, we took precautions, seeking out the hushed nooks of the home where interruptions would be minimal. Yet as the days unfolded, we grew more daring, unable to withstand the magnetic attraction that drew us together. One evening, as David attended a client dinner, Jacob and I discovered ourselves in the library. I feigned an effort to arrange the shelves, my hands trembling as he loomed behind me. "You're trembling," he whispered, his breath soft and warm against my neck. "I'm fine," I insisted, even as my voice revealed the truth. He gently rested his hands on my shoulders and guided me to look into his eyes. "There's no need for fear. I am not intimidated by you," I declared. "I was," I murmured, my voice trembling. "I have concerns about our actions." He cradled my face in his hands, his eyes unwavering. "Just let it go from your mind. Simply stay by my side." I felt compelled to engage in a debate. I felt the urge to express that we couldn't continue down this path, yet the words eluded me. Instead, I let him draw me into his embrace, and for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. The hidden nature of our connection only amplified the fervor. Each stolen moment seemed like a defiant gesture against the monotonous existence I had grown accustomed to, a reminder that passion still lay hidden beneath the everyday patterns of my marriage. Yet alongside the thrill lingered a sense of trepidation. One afternoon, while Jacob and I lounged on the couch in the living room, David arrived home sooner than we had anticipated. "Melissa," he called from the corridor. I sprang to my feet, adrenaline surging as Jacob swiftly darted to the far corner of the room. I called out, making an effort to maintain a steady tone. David entered, his gaze shifting between us. He remarked with a nonchalant tone, though his gaze remained fixed on Jacob. "I didn't realize you'd have company." "Just catching up," Jacob remarked with an easy demeanor, his stance at ease. David nodded, yet the gaze he cast my way as he turned to leave sent an unsettling shiver coursing through me. No matter how cautious we tried to be, it grew increasingly difficult to conceal. David started with gentle inquiries, but soon his questions became increasingly direct. One evening, as we gathered around the dinner table, he observed that you and Jacob appeared to be getting along quite well. "He's been quite the assistance around the house," I responded, managing a smile. David nodded, his face a mask of inscrutability. "It's wonderful to witness that. It's reassuring to know that you have someone by your side while I'm occupied." His words held a subtle nuance that eluded my understanding, and I sensed the color fade from my cheeks. The initial fracture appeared when Jacob's closest companion, Matthew, arrived unexpectedly. Matthew was boisterous, assertive, and possessed a keen ability to uncover what others sought to conceal. "You've been spending quite a bit of time at home," Matthew remarked to Jacob one afternoon, his tone playful, yet his gaze keen. "Just lending a hand," Jacob responded nonchalantly. "Must be nice," Matthew remarked, his eyes darting in my direction, "having a companion by your side." The remark sent a shiver down my spine, prompting me to swiftly excuse myself and leave them to their own devices. Eventually, Jacob discovered me in the kitchen, his demeanor strained. "Matthew possesses knowledge," he murmured softly. I ventured a response, though my voice trembled slightly. Jacob gave a slight shake of his head. "He's not foolish. David will find a way to solve it." As the days passed, the atmosphere in the home grew increasingly oppressive. David's doubts, Matthew's remarks, the burden of our hidden truth. It was as if a tempest was on the verge of unleashing. Yet as the dangers escalated, my affection for Jacob deepened, and regardless of the peril, I found it impossible to part ways with him. Maintaining a secret resembles the act of submerging oneself and holding one's breath beneath the surface. There's a limit to how long you can endure before the weight of it all begins to bear down on you. Jacob and I excelled at concealment, yet the fissures in our pretense were increasingly apparent. David had his sight, just as Matthew did. Then there was Lisa, David's colleague, who somehow transformed her casual visits into something more unwelcome. Lisa showed up one Saturday afternoon, uninvited yet completely comfortable. She had been to the house several times prior, each visit cloaked in the guise of delivering something for David. This time, she arrived with a bottle of wine and an exuberantly radiant smile. "I thought I'd stop by," she said, entering the kitchen where I was busy chopping vegetables. "I'm all right," I responded, mustering a smile. Lisa set the bottle down on the counter and leaned against the island, her gaze sweeping across the room as if she were meticulously noting every detail. This location is absolutely stunning. Your efforts have truly transformed this space into a warm and inviting home. Thank you, I managed to say, my voice strained. Her eyes remained fixed on the back door, the very threshold through which Jacob had just departed. David is fortunate to have you, and Jacob as well, of course. He's incredibly helpful around here, wouldn't you agree? My heart raced, yet I maintained a calm facade. He has been exceptional. Having him around is quite pleasant. Lisa's lips formed a smile, yet her eyes remained untouched by its warmth. I have no doubt about that. As the weeks passed, Lisa's presence in the house grew increasingly regular. She crafted reasons to drop in, always feigning it was for professional matters, yet I sensed her real intention was to collect insights. It was unclear if the matter pertained to David or Jacob. You know, she remarked one afternoon while we lounged in the living room. David doesn't share much about his personal life, but I have a feeling that things haven't been entirely smooth between you two. I tensed, my fingers clutching the teacup resting in my lap. Every marriage presents its own set of challenges, I remarked, striving to keep my composure. Lisa's smile held a sweetness that felt almost too perfect to be real. Yet I imagine having Jacob by her side makes it easier to maintain. He appears to be quite focused. The message was unmistakable, and a wave of anxiety surged within me. Next came Matthew. Jacob's closest companion had consistently been straightforward, often crossing the line into rudeness, but now his remarks cut even deeper. "You've been spending quite a bit of time with Melissa," Matthew remarked one evening, while he and Jacob relaxed on the patio, with beers in hand. Jacob shrugged, maintaining a laid-back tone. "She is my stepmother." "Absolutely. We will have a conversation." "Indeed, there's more to it than that, isn't there?" Matthew pressed, his gaze intense. Jacob's hold on his bottle grew firmer. "What is it that you are attempting to convey?" "You're acting strange," Matthew said. "And I believe it's more than just the work situation. Something deeper is at play here, and I suspect she is at the center of it." Jacob rose suddenly, the sound of his chair grating against the stone, echoing in the silence. "You have no idea what you're saying." Matthew's eyes narrowed. "Do I not?" The atmosphere in the house became increasingly oppressive. Each encounter with David was akin to balancing on a precarious edge. Each encounter with Lisa felt like an examination I was bound to fail. Jacob was also becoming more audacious, his irritation with our concealment intensifying. One evening, as we lingered in the library, he faced me, his expression stern. "I can't continue down this path," he expressed. "Jacob, we must tread carefully," I responded, my voice quivering. "Being cautious isn't sufficient," he retorted. "Matthew's on edge. Lisa's investigating, and David's more aware than you realize." I averted my gaze, feeling the sting of tears at the corners of my eyes. "What do you propose? Should we cease?" Jacob inched nearer, his tone gentle and soothing. "I'm aware that it's not possible, yet we must determine our next steps, because this cannot continue." The tipping moment arrived at a dinner gathering that David was determined to orchestrate. Lisa was present, naturally, accompanied by several of David's co-workers. Matthew arrived as well, his invitation provided by Jacob. The evening began with an air of simplicity and calm. Charming dialogue, joyful laughter, the gentle sound of wine glasses meeting. Yet, as the evening progressed, the ambiance transformed. "So, Melissa," Lisa said, her voice slicing through the noise of conversation, "what do you do to stay engaged while David is away so frequently?" I stood still. Her question was laden with suggestion. Text, I responded with the typical things, making an effort to maintain my composure. Tending to the garden, diving into books, and assisting Jacob with some projects. Lisa's smile became more defined. "It seems you are quite near." Across the table, Matthew arched an eyebrow, his eyes darting toward Jacob. "Indeed, Jacob has been frequenting this place quite a bit recently. It seems reasonable. Melissa is quite approachable and easy to converse with." The table was enveloped in silence. David glanced back and forth, his face a mask of mystery. Lisa savored her wine, her eyes sparkling with contentment. Jacob rose suddenly. "Pardon me," he murmured, stepping out of the room. Text, "I believe I should go see how he's doing," I said hastily, rising to my feet. I discovered Jacob wandering restlessly in the garden, illuminated by the gentle radiance of the patio lights. "This was a mistake," he said as I drew near. "What was it?" I inquired, my heart pounding. "Everything," he answered, his tone strained, allowing Matthew to be here, acting as if all is well. "It's not, Melissa. It's completely unraveled." I extended my hand, lightly grazing his arm. "We'll find a way." He gazed at me, a sense of urgency reflected in his eyes. "In what way?" As I find myself dwindling in options to keep everything intact. Just as I was about to reply, we halted at the unmistakable crunch of footsteps on the gravel. David lingered at the boundary of the garden, his form outlined against the gentle glow of the evening light. "What's happening out here?" he inquired. His voice was deep and menacing. The ultimate showdown was on the horizon, and all that we had concealed for ages was on the verge of revelation. David lingered at the garden's boundary, his stance rigid, his face devoid of warmth as he observed us. The stillness lingered, extending into what seemed like forever. Jacob and I remained motionless, uncertain about our next steps. His gaze bore down heavily, enveloping everything in its intensity. "What's happening out here?" David echoed, his tone dark and menacing. I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped me. Jacob and I shared a fleeting glance, and I could sense the trepidation reflected in his gaze. "We were simply engaged in conversation," I remarked, mustering a smile, striving to maintain a steady tone. "Everything is fine." David's gaze darted back and forth between us, his face a mask of ambiguity. "It's amusing how the two of you appear to have endless conversation," he remarked, his tone cutting, each word laced with doubt. Jacob stood tall, his jaw tight with tension. "Is something bothering you, David?" David advanced, a chilling smile playing on his lips. "I'm uncertain. Ought there to be?" The atmosphere surrounding us grew denser, the strain escalating with every fleeting moment. My heartbeat thudded relentlessly against my chest. David had moved beyond mere speculation. He was aware. At last, he had assembled the fragments into a coherent whole. Jacob paused for a moment, uncertainty flickering in his eyes, but ultimately he nodded and made his way out. "I'll go inside," he whispered, his voice strained. "No," David snapped, his voice heavy with tension. "You will remain right here." Jacob came to a halt, yet remained still. David shifted his focus to me, his stare chilling. "Could you shed some light on why my wife and son are quietly wandering in the garden while we have guests over for dinner?" I parted my lips, yet the words eluded me. I stood there, paralyzed, words escaping me as the gravity of the situation pressed down on me. David's voice pierced the stillness once more, and his suspicion had become unmistakable. The following day, David's demeanor towards me was more frigid than it had ever been. His clipped tone and frosty glares conveyed that he was not about to drop this matter. Jacob attempted to maintain his distance, yet his efforts only appeared to exacerbate the situation. Lisa, naturally, recognized a chance to weave herself into the turmoil. "I couldn't help but notice the awkwardness last night," Lisa remarked, sipping her coffee in the kitchen, her voice laced with insincere sympathy. "It was merely a mix-up," I remarked, attempting to maintain a breezy and relaxed tone. Lisa tilted her head, her smile excessively charming. "Absolutely. However, Melissa, it would be wise to exercise caution. Viewpoints can be perilous, particularly in circumstances such as these." A wave of unease washed over me. Her words carried an ominous weight, transforming a mere caution into a palpable menace. The gleam of satisfaction in her eyes sent a chill through me. As the evening wore on, David summoned me to the study. His demeanor exuded tranquility, yet an unsettling sharpness lingered beneath his composed exterior. "I've been pondering," David remarked, reclining in his chair. "Perhaps the moment has come for us to implement some adjustments." "Modifications?" I inquired with trepidation, my heart heavy with dread. "Jacob's been around for quite a while," David remarked, his tone relaxed. "It seems like the right moment for him to take the next step and establish his own space." I was caught off guard. "David is still in the process of finding his way. He requires some time." "He can find a solution elsewhere," David interjected, his tone resolute. "This is a definitive statement." The atmosphere thickened with anticipation as David firmly expressed his resolve to see Jacob depart. The anticipated clash finally arrived at its tipping point. Upon sharing the news with Jacob, his response was nothing short of explosive. "He's kicking me out," Jacob exclaimed, his voice tinged with incredulity. "What is the reason for that? Shall we engage in a dialogue amidst the blooms?" "He's acting suspiciously," I remarked, attempting to soothe his nerves. Jacob gave a slight shake of his head. "He ponders. He suspects that something is afoot, doesn't he? That's his issue to deal with, not ours." I extended my hand toward his arm, attempting to provide him with some stability. We understood this was a gamble. This cannot continue to escalate. Jacob seethed with anger. His actions aren't driven by suspicion. His actions stem from a desire to exert control over you. I refuse to allow that to happen. That fateful night, when David urged Jacob to go, marked the turning point for everything. David's tone was icy and resolute, and his demand was unmistakable. "You have a week to pack your things," David said, with a composed demeanor during dinner. Jacob thrust his fork onto his plate, rising suddenly from his seat. He retorted sharply, "You don't have the authority to dictate when I go." "This is my house," David said, his tone sharp and cold. "I can no longer put up with this." Jacob's fury ignited. What should be tolerated? My presence in this moment? Or my connection with Melissa deepening in ways you never imagined? Silence enveloped the room. A chill coursed through me as David's expression shifted, and I sensed the intensity of his stare. He rose gradually, his voice taking on a deep and menacing quality. "Leave this house now, or you'll wish you had." That evening, I discovered Jacob in his room, carefully folding his clothes into his suitcase. His fury remained unyielding, just as my own did. "You can't let him win," Jacob said, his voice strained with frustration. "This isn't about victory," I murmured gently. "This is a narrative of endurance." Jacob's gaze seethed with fervor. "You are not obligated to remain in this place. You are not obligated to remain with him." "I have no choice," I murmured, my eyes brimming with tears. "There's always a choice," Jacob said, moving in closer to me. "Join me on this journey." The words lingered, and for a brief moment, I pondered their weight. The idea of abandoning all that is known, of embarking on a new journey in a distant place. However, the truth of what that would entail swiftly descended upon me. I gently shook my head. "I cannot," I replied, my voice trembling. Jacob's gaze softened, yet he gave a nod of agreement. "Then I shall take my leave," he murmured softly. Yet, this is far from finished. The following morning, Jacob had vanished. David remained silent, and I drifted through the desolate house, enveloped by the stillness. However, the true surprise arrived later that night, as I discovered a note tucked beneath my bedroom door. "You believe you've triumphed, David, yet the reality remains unknown to you. Rest assured, I will ensure that you do. Lisa." My hands trembled as I perused the note. Lisa was aware. She had caught a glimpse of something, picked up on a conversation, and now she was cleverly turning it to her benefit. The note was a ticking time bomb in my hands, and I stood paralyzed, the words blurring as I read them repeatedly. The following day, I faced Lisa. I approached her in the kitchen, my voice barely above a whisper, as I extended the note towards her. "What is this all about?" I insisted. Lisa remained unperturbed. She rested against the counter, a sly smile tugging at the edges of her mouth. "Precisely what it indicates. David has a right to the truth. Do you agree?" "There's nothing to share," I replied hastily, though my tone wavered. Lisa arched an eyebrow, her expression tinged with feigned compassion. "Oh, Melissa, you can't possibly think that, can you? Your glances exchanged with Jacob haven't gone unnoticed by me. I see clearly." My heart tightened, and I moved in closer, my voice lowering. "You're mistaken if you believe this will sway me. I refuse to allow you to tear my family apart." Lisa chuckled gently, her head tilting slightly in amusement. "Ruin your family, Melissa? You've accomplished that already. I'm merely hastening what is bound to happen." Just as I was about to reply, David's voice echoed from further down the hallway. Lisa's smile grew brighter. "Fear not," she murmured. "I will take care of the timing." That evening, David sat in silence, his demeanor more subdued than normal, as he absent-mindedly prodded at his meal. Lisa had departed hours ago, yet her essence remained, akin to a shadowy mist. The stillness that hung between David and me felt oppressive. At last, David set his fork aside and turned his gaze toward me. "Melissa, is there anything on your mind that you'd like to share with me?" he inquired. His gaze sharpened. A chill coursed through me, dread swelling within my heart. I managed to put on a smile. "Could you clarify what you mean?" David reclined in his chair, observing me intently. "Your behavior has been quite unusual recently. And then there's Lisa, subtly suggesting things that elude my comprehension. If there's anything happening, now is the moment to share it with me." I fought to maintain my calm. "David, everything is perfectly fine. Lisa seems to be seeking to create some chaos. You're aware of her nature." David regarded me intently for a prolonged moment before giving a slow nod. "I hope you're right," he said, his tone laden with caution. "For if I discover something different—" He left the sentence hanging, yet I understood his intent perfectly. The tension was mounting. That night, as I rested in bed, sleep eluded me. My thoughts surged with endless potential. Lisa's threat loomed over me like a dark cloud. David's escalating suspicion loomed ominously, like a ticking time bomb ready to explode. As I was on the verge of surrendering to slumber, my phone vibrated softly on the nightstand. I seized it, my heart racing as I absorbed the words on the page. Let's rendezvous tomorrow at noon in the park near the bridge. Jacob. The following day, I stepped out of the house, pretending to run errands. Upon my arrival at the park, I found Jacob standing by the bridge, his hands tucked deep into the pockets of his jacket. Text. You shouldn't have reached out to me, I said as I drew closer, my voice quaking with emotion. He responded, I had no choice. Exasperation reflected in his gaze. Lisa visited me. Excuse me? I inhaled deeply, my heart heavy with despair. Is she aware? Jacob gave a slight nod. Melissa possesses all the knowledge, and she's leveraging it to reach David. My stomach twisted in knots. What were her words to you? She expects me to admit it, he remarked with a hint of resentment. She desires that I reveal the truth to David. She's manipulating us both, Melissa. I shut my eyes, feeling the burden of everything pressing heavily upon me. Time is slipping away, I murmured. Jacob grasped my hand, his touch anchoring me firmly in the moment. We must take action before she makes her move. That's it for today's fiery tale on iFire Story. If you got caught up in this infidelity story or Reddit cheating drama, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. What would you do in this situation? Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our next true story of love gone wrong. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Stay curious and keep the spark alive.